the truth, they will ridicule everything you say and do. It's all part of a deception. It's a puppet master's tool. And I've seen those craft shut down the silos from 10 miles away. And there ain't nothing that the Pentagon can do. They can't make them go away.
From Malmstrom to Manat, Boston to LA, there are people asking questions and they will not go away. But what has been seen might not be what it seems. The government's shadows dance and deceive. From Malmstrom to Manat, New York to LA, you can't get the picture if they're pale or they're gray. But what we have seen might not be what it seems when the government's shadows dance and deceive.
Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show. Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
I'm James Creechbaum with the Paranormal and World Changes News. Well, cracking ice sheet swallows dozens of vehicles in Russia. On Sunday around 3 o'clock, unusually warm temperatures contributed to the melting ice, and around 45 vehicles fell through the waters near Vladivostok, Russia, after the ice sheet gave way. Also, William Shatner has said that he plans on a private space tour to contact private space tourism companies, and while he doesn't identify them, it's hard to imagine any of them turning him down because of the publicity, and he wants to be the oldest man in space. Whether it's one of these tourism companies, Shatner says he'll be making a big announcement soon and potentially making a trip in 2020. Also, physicists have proved the existence that the soul after death there's a soul after death of the body. American and British scientists have studied human consciousness at the quantum level. Experiments have shown that the soul actually exists. The world's first jinn trapper service is available. Do you know who to call when there's one of these supernatural and usually evil jinns around? Well, if you live in Malaysia, there's a certain company you can call, and they will come and have an expert come and trap these jinn and remove them for you. True story. Cell phone radiation education. The latest breaking news from the FCC is that they are investigating Apple and Samsung for violating radio frequency radiation limits emitting by their cell phones. More to come on that. New evidence suggests that there are still active volcanoes on Venus. Now, they could have erupted very recently, and if this is correct, this would be a significant discovery as the only other known place in the solar system besides Earth that contains active volcanoes that spew lava. Also, there was a UFO in, let's see, where was that at? There was a UFO also in St. Augustine, Florida recently, and it was spotted by several people. There's more to come on that also. Scientists have discovered a mysterious power which explains all anomalies. They call it the dark energy, and they saying that in the near future they will come out with much more research on that to prove that dark matter exists. Next news break tomorrow night.
You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, with our host, Gary Anderson.
Wow, the time is just flying by here. That happens when you have a great guest. And Rob happens to be a great guest. His knowledge in UFOs and all these other things is just outstanding. Well, you got to check out his books, because I'll tell you what, Deadly UFOs, you need to check that out. It's available on Amazon along with a lot of his other books. Now, you had a question for me before we had to go on break.
Yes, I was just wondering, I mean, what I'm trying to do is learn more about the whole process. And so I do research. Again, I was the MUFON field investigator, but I also talk to people who've been in this situation a long time, who have studied a lot of research, as you have done, and who have discussed and talked about it with many people. And I'd like your opinion. Where do you think aliens come from?
I don't think they come from our planet. I don't think they come from another dimension. I don't think they come from a parallel universe. People are so naive, and I hear it so much. You know, I've been doing radio since 1976, minus a 10-year break when I moved on to doing something else, and then I came back to it, and then I was retired, and here I am again talking about it. People are naive. They think that our little planet is the only planet that has life that can support humanoids. I don't think so. You know, I think there's solar systems out there far beyond our intelligence to even comprehend. And I really think what we're being visited, not by one or two or three, but I think we're being visited. I also think there's a motive behind it. They're not here to give us orbs. They're not here with 25 million cloaked UFOs going around Earth protecting us, because I don't see anything they have ever done to protect us. They haven't. They certainly haven't slowed down global warming. They haven't stopped the ice caps from melting on the North, South Pole, Antarctica, Greenland. I mean, our world, we've had wars like you wouldn't believe. They could have came in and stopped it. I don't believe what these people say. Well, gee, remember Star Trek? They had this little policy that they could watch but not interfere. I disagree, because if they were here to help mankind, why would they be going up to some people? People that maybe are not educated, people that are not in government, people that actually have no control to share the information out realistically, and tell them that, hey, we're here to protect mankind. This is what's happening to your planet. I don't buy a lot of that stuff. I just don't. I think there's a lot of people that maybe are on medication.
Actually, I find your answer very incisive. Could they be transdimensional? Yes. Could they be from the future? Yes. But my gut feeling is that they're from elsewhere. Enough astronauts have said it publicly. There's enough evidence to support it. And we have to understand that if you evolve on another planet, you might be similar to us, but you're not the same. Your oxygen level may be more or less. When they came to Earth, they might have found that our oxygen level was too low, and that it was like living on the top of Mount Everest, and that's why they stayed in their temples or palaces and were waited on by humans and created us to do their work for them and, you know, be their servants. I mean, there's no doubt that the priesthoods of all the civilizations existed to serve the gods. Maybe the temples at one time actually had occupants, the so-called gods. Now they don't. They stand empty, and we call them churches and temples, but they're empty palaces. And by the way, they are palaces. You look at a cathedral or a mosque or any of these different religions and their temples, and you can't help but see them as palaces. They're huge, they're wonderful, and they're marvelous. Exactly what someone who had a lot of power and control would want. And I think the priesthood originally did serve them, literally, hand and foot, fed them, bathed them, whatever. And now we've sort of standardized it, and we think of the priesthood as serving God in general, whereas it used to be the gods specifically. But I agree with you. I think they probably are from somewhere else. I think they have used us. I think they have abused us to no end. And I think they have an agenda, and I don't think they give a damn, quite frankly, about what happens to us.
I don't think so. I mentioned this on the show a lot. You remember the old Soviet Union? They would take babies and and basically years would go by. They created these American towns, in Russia, far away from anywhere. And they took these babies and young kids and trained them basically to be Americans. So they were being brainwashed. They were learning about America, every asset and facet of how we live. And they were brainwashed. And then they were sent over in this country with suitcase bombs or whatever they were instructed to do. But thank God we never got in a war with Soviet Union. So they never were called on to do their job. But I got a funny feeling now.
Sleepers. And that's one of my theories about aliens. With the abductions where they're returned, we know that there's some kind of implants in a lot of them. There's absolute evidence for that. Now, I'm absolutely convinced there are implants because my brother had one, and I don't think my brother's a liar, quite frankly. And he's not the only one. I mean, that several doctors have removed implants. There's no doubt that there are implants in people. What if they've created this huge sleeper cell group of people in our civilization so that if the proverbial, whatever hit the fan, they could activate them? And if that's the case, if over 1 million people in America alone have claimed to have been abducted, they have a huge sleeper cell standing army that could be activated at the press of a button?
That's the scary part. And maybe a lot of them might pass on from age because they're just waiting, maybe for some reason, just for the right time to do whatever they want to do. Maybe they want to take over our world. Maybe our world has to be more, how can I say it, water associated before they can even, maybe they have to live underwater. Maybe they have to live I don't know. But there's some reason behind this. I just can't believe they're coming here, abducting people, putting their fingers down their throat and trying to come out their ear. Yeah, Rob, I don't believe that. I can't believe they would continue to mutilate cattle or humans. They would, if they were just experimenting, they would have had their whatever fill a long time ago.
Now, there's some agenda going on, and it isn't about just doing research and experimenting. I don't buy that for 1 minute anymore. That might have been true several centuries ago, but it's not true now. You don't keep on doing this for centuries unless you're actually trying to get to some end point, and I think they have an agenda. Now, it's important for us to find out what that agenda is because, of course, it affects our future. I mean, would you send your child to the local store at night for a loaf of bread? I wouldn't.
Well, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even want to go on a long road trip anymore because when you really think about it, again, like Calvin Parker, Timothy Cohn that had an implant, and he's in denial. I mean, I love the guy. We became friends. He had his implant removed by the late Dr. Roger Lear. But after his implant was removed, he and his wife saw another UFO close up. Now, why would he see another UFO close up? He's never went back to see if he had another implant. He had the implant removed, and maybe. And
I don't buy it because, first of all, people do suffer from PTSD, and there's another symptom too. I was talking about Dr. Lear on the show I did for the Travel Channel out in L.A. in September. And we were talking about Dr. Lear, and I believe it was patient number 17. I hope I have that right. But there is such a thing as the Stockholm Syndrome. And when you're abducted, kidnapped, and you're kept with your kidnappers, they pressure you, and you're under such a hothouse, pressure cooker environment of constant fear and dread that it doesn't take long before you begin to associate with your oppressors. So you have a lot of people who initially report a UFO experiment or an abduction and say it was terrible, it was horrible, and then later on they begin to change their story. The actual events in the story don't change, but they change their interpretation of it. They